Hello everyone, welcome to Warrington Town Football Club for another episode of The Yellow Show with me, James Gordon. I'm joined as ever by Matt Turner from the Warrington Guardian, and we've got the chairman, Mr. Chairman, Toby Macormac with us for a special pre-season catch-up. Before we get into that, me and Matt, we've done a wrap-up show, I suppose, from last season. How long did it take you to get over the Kings Lynn game?
Probably a couple of days, to be honest. Proper flat and empty, after the fact, and I think that it felt like we were being punished really for having a great win at South Shields. People had said to go to South Shields and get another win in a game of that size deserved promotion on its own, never mind having to do another game against Kings Lynn. So yeah, really just flat and fell a bit out of love with it really. But like any sporting disappointment, you've just got to dust yourself down and go again. And I don't think anyone within the clubs really spoke to each other for a couple of days after. And sort of me and Paul sort of exchanged messages, I think on the Tuesday morning, and then we sort of got straight back into it really. Who's staying, who's going, and we met up for a coffee a couple of days after that.
It takes a fair bit, doesn't it? Because it's not just last season; it was the season before as well. To keep, having that disappointment and then dusting yourself down and going again, it does take a fair bit. And like you say, you do end up falling out of love with it a little bit for a while, don't you?
You do, because it's easy to look for excuses. You could turn around and say, well, we tripped over against Grantham because we had the FA Trophy run and 9 injured players and Rory McKeown suspended, and then you can look at this year and say, well, we would have gone up if it wasn't for the Super Playoff. They're not excuses, they're genuine. There were genuine reasons at the time. So, like I say, you've just got to go again and trying to retain players and just keep building. And I've said, and to try and keep everyone sort of upbeat after it, I said, if we replicate what we've done this season, we go up.
Do you mentioned South Shields game, and we don't think this is the case, having talked about it, but do you think the win over South Shields, it didn't lead to complacency, but was it a case of it felt like that was almost like the hump in the, you got over that hurdle and it was almost like you were on the home run, the home straight?
Possibly. I think what didn't help was we went to watch Kings Lynn on the Monday in their playoff final, and I can't stress enough how poor Alvechurch were. If that was the opening game of a season and you'd been to watch it, you would have thought Kings Lynn would have been there or thereabouts, but you would have 100% said that Alvechurch were going to get relegated. They were really poor, so it didn't help us weighing Kings Lynn up. Their two forwards played really well against us in our game against them, but they didn't break a sweat against Alvechurch. You could have subbed them both on the hour and they would have still walked the game. So I've got a little bit of a false report, if you like, against Kings Lynn on the Monday. But again, I think at the time as well, you look at the game, I think probably a dozen times this year where we've substituted at 2-1 up and gone 5 across the middle and just seen the game out. So obviously Cards has done that 10 minutes ago, and you look at your watch thinking, great, I've done it. We're sort of over and dry, and then just out of nowhere, a penalty gets given, which you're not sort of set up for that, are you? When you make the change to see the game out, you just don't think that's going to happen.
No. So obviously when you and Paul sat down and obviously you start talking about next season, was retaining so many players, that was retaining the whole squad effectively the priority? Is that what you discussed pretty much straight away?
Yeah. My first question to him was, who's staying, who's going, and more importantly, who do you want to stay? Because I think in the aftermatch at the Super Playoff, Paul made a point of saying that the only surviving member from the previous year was Tony Gray. So we're not averse to starting from scratch and bringing a complete new squad in. But when I met up later on, with him later on in the week, a lot of messages has gone out, and we got a feeling early on that a lot of players wanted to stay. Some just wanted a week or two out of it, but Paul had a really good vibe and a good feeling that we were going to retain a lot of the players, and to retain a number that that we have. I don't know. In the time I've been here, we've never retained that many players in the season.
So has it shocked you? I mean, I spoke to Cards a couple of weeks ago, and he said it's surprised him the amount of players that have stayed. But to have, so there's only 3 or 4 of the starting squad who have gone. So has it surprised you that so many have stayed?
Yeah, because at this level, you know, in this competition, you just don't see it. You just don't see it. Players will either move on for a fresh challenge, or I think for us, the majority of the players in the team can play in the division above, no question. So our biggest fear was, are they going to take Conference North options, because that's ideally where they thought they'd be this season, but they didn't. And it took a little bit of negotiating to get some of them over the line. Don't get me wrong, because I think we had probably some of them for less last year than we should have. Being really honest, so we've put that right this year, and we've kept as many as you can. We still need 2 or 3. But I think for us to go into a season where we're near enough, could start not far off the same 11 that finished it. Something that you don't see at this level, and I think it's hopefully something that will give us an advantage going into the start of the season.
Obviously, you have quite a hands-on role with the football side of it, as well as you do with the off-field stuff. Has getting so many players over the line early meant that you can spend a bit of time on other things within the football club?
Yeah, definitely. Because this time of year you tend to be nothing else but players, and who can you get, who's out there, and things like that. And it's give Paul a chance to focus more on 1 or 2 players, 1 or 2 positions, and it's give us the ability to make some changes in the ground, and to work on a couple of projects outside the ground that I'm looking at. So yeah, it's give us a little bit back, and hopefully that'll contribute to us going forward.
Are you disappointed at the players that haven't decided to stick around? I mean, I suppose everyone knows who they are. Robbie and Witts, I suppose, are the main 2. Was it a bit of disappointment that they didn't want to stay as part of the puzzle?
Yeah, I think so. I can understand why they've both gone. They've gone for the step above. I think Witts wanted sort of more full time, or this hybrid model that clubs seem to be incorporating now. He was sort of more that way. Robbie was a case of I want to play in the division above. Marcus has gone to concentrate on a teaching degree, which a little bit surprised at, because of course Marcus's age, got a lot to offer. Could have done both. He's more sort of wanting to concentrate on his career first than his football, which is fine. It's a personal decision, but I think he could have done both. He's more than capable as a person of doing that. Adam Hughes gone to TNS. Can understand, there's good money to be earned in the Welsh system. They're in Europe every year. So the only disappointment for me about the Welsh League is they just play once a week.
Yeah.
Just play on Saturdays, and there's nowhere else to go from the Welsh League. Once you go there, that's it. So yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that not everyone stayed. But I think the key thing, I think I could be wrong, but I think a couple of those maybe went because they didn't think Ben Garrity was staying.
How were you surprised that you was able to keep Ben?
Yeah, definitely. You've only got to look at the season that Ben's had to. He should be playing now. It should be, no question. Had a couple of offers during the season. Ben felt that full-time football wasn't for him at the time. So we nailed on that he was going to get an offer in the summer, and it was just be a case of, because he's under 24, it would have been a case of us just negotiating with the club that he went to. Unfortunately, the club that we were sort of dealing with, the offer changed at the death. Gave us an opportunity to speak to Ben. Had a good sit down with him, and sort of discussed his future and his age, and if he can come in and do what he's doing, what he did this season, just gone into the next one, he's more than likely going to get picked up during the playing season. His stock's only going to rise for himself, and for us. So we've structured a deal for him that's the best for him and the best for the club.
Can you give us a bit of insight into how that works in terms of was it the club that would have to negotiate a fee with the buying club, and if you can't agree, it's a tribunal? Is that right?
Yeah. So at the end of a player's contract, so if he's under 24, and he
you give him an offer deal.
Yeah, we give him an offer. If he doesn't accept the terms, that's fine. But if another club picks him up and they don't pay a fee, it goes to a tribunal. Within a tribunal, the FA deem that a year's player development is £9,000. So at this level, you probably wouldn't have got much more than that. You might have got stretches to 15 and then tied it into appearances and that kind of thing, and or a salon fee, 25, 30, 40% of his next transfer. So we structured something that that helps him. Sort of, if you like, the higher up the club that comes in for him, the lower the release fee is. Only because that opens the door for him to go and play as high as possible. And if a club comes in for him that's 1 or 2 steps above us, it gives us the chance to actively go out and use the cash to fetch a replacement in, so we don't lose pace. We're hoping that it's going to be something that a big club comes in for.
100%, yeah. On the subject of of retaining players and recruiting players, we were talking off there. The conference season starts a little bit earlier this year. Do you think that, plus the fact you've retained so much of last season's squad, do you think that means you can be a bit more relaxed about bringing players in and not rush things as much?
Yeah, I think it kind of gives us a chance. It's always a gamble leaving it late, but if you look at last season, 2 weeks before the season started for us, we picked up Mark Roberts, Jack McCreth and David Raven. Two of those, Dave Raven and Jack McCreth, pretty much played for every game for us by Jack's injury, and they didn't come until 2 weeks before, and that was because once the release started and the players started to filter down, and that's where they came into us. So with them, like I say, starting early, I think they kick off on August the 3rd, so they should be making sort of big decisions towards the end of July, which would mean they're going to come to us then, with 2 or 3 weeks of pre-season still left. So it's an opportunity, and you're right, we're only 2 or 3 players short, so we've just got a bit of a plate spinning at, really, speaking to players now and just see how things go and see what gets offered.
You talk about players from leagues above, of course, but in the last few seasons we've had players, Ben Garrity being one, and Jamie McDonald the season before that Cards and Adam have sort of plucked out of nowhere. Is there anything? I suppose they're always looking for little gems like that floating around. Who's going to be this season's Ben Garrity? Have we found them yet?
Maybe. Yeah, we've got we've got a couple of irons in the fire and a couple of lads reporting for pre-season training, because of course we'll retain the whole squad from last season. Jamie Carton's the world, Don Reeds and Connors and all the players that finished with us will be getting invited back to pre-season, and I think we've got another 5 or 6 lads joining us, because you can't just beast everyone with 90 minutes when the games start. You've got to give them 45s and 60s, so give these lads a chance, these trialists and lads that we know, to come down and prove their worth, and I think possibly there could be one in there.
Accrington, the first home friendly, that's quite a coup, I suppose, for the club. How do those sort of deals come about, and is it useful for you as a club chairman to build a relationship with your counterpart at a Football League One club?
Yeah, the main thing, when you're looking at getting loan players in from the likes of Accrington and clubs like that, to get a friendly with them, to get the first team squad down here and the first team management staff, they get to look at the pitch, they get to look at the club, they get the feel of it. So, if they've got a loan player available and you get in touch with them for it, when the managers are speaking, they know the surface and they know the club, and it just makes that process, a lot easier. There's some, James Spear, who's the goalkeeper coach here. He played over 300 games. He's
a club legend. They described him on the website.
Legend, yeah.
Spear.
He'll tell you himself.
And Paul Carden himself had a bit of time there himself. So there's a strong link between the staff from both clubs. So to get them down and to see what we're doing here would be great for the club.
We had Mecky was from there a couple of years ago, wasn't he? Mecky McLeod. So it'd be interesting to see that. I was saying to Matt, I was surprised you've not got the name on the board outside, because you're always saying to us it's about the name on the board outside and the crowd. We've talked about the crowds a little bit. Obviously, we ended last season with a pretty high average crowd or a couple of high crowds, obviously because of success. I think it was 418 the average last season. What a couple of questions, I suppose. What do you feel is a realistic target for next season in terms of average crowd, and what's almost like the way to go about that, and also what would enable you to free up some more, I don't know, funds for investment in something else?
I suppose if you wanted a number, I suppose you've got to have a target to start with. So 500, I think, because when you start saying average crowd's 500, and then how can you get it to 6, how can you get it to 7, and so on and so on. But you've got to have a starting figure, so 500 would be nice. How do we do it? I think over the seasons it's proved that it's difficult, because it's only success that brings the fans in. We had 2 playoff games here, the semi-final and the super final. I think within those 2 games there was over 4,000 fans in here. So it shows that success improves gates. Difficult because the only way you improve success is to get your cash on the field, to give the manager the chance to fetch better players and to bring better results and get up to the league. So it's a bit of a vicious circle. I can remember back to a few seasons back, it might have been the Bamber Bridge playoff semi-final year, where I think we'd been top of the league for 17 weeks, and we drew 3 games 0-0, and then off the back of those 3 0-0s, the next 2 home fixtures, the crowd had dropped by 50 to 75 after you've been top for that long. So that underlines the fact that success and good results is the absolute driver to get crowds through the gate, apart from the supporters that are here week in, week out, which every club needs. Getting funds to get more people in is how you do it. And I think the biggest question is, it's not how you do it, it's who's going to do it. There's different ways to do different marketing projects. You've got the Golden Square with 200,000 people going through it every week. It's no good just someone stood there with a fixture leaflet giving them out, because you have a route through the bins further down, they're just going to be in there. It's how you engage with it, and the resources that you put behind it, and the cost of that, because for this level the margins are really fine. Yeah,
you need to get a return. I mean, we were saying, if you got an extra 100 people through the gates, well, even an extra 50 people through the gates, whatever, every week, paying probably an average £7 a head, it actually doesn't sound like a lot to average Joe, but ultimately on your bottom line it's a massive amount.
It's huge. I was only talking to a potential sponsor earlier today, and he turned round, and I won't mention the figure, but he turned round and he said, so it's not going to help that much, is it, if I put this figure in? And I said, well, that over a playing season, I said, that equates to 50 quid a week. And even at that point, he didn't get it. 50 quid a week, that's not going to help much. But that 50 quid a week is the difference between a player signing and him not signing.
Yeah.
And by that, I don't mean that a player will go to another club for 25 or 50 quid a week. Don't get me wrong, some do. But just that little bit of extra bargaining power across the season can be the difference in getting a signing over the line. And I often say, you get some companies. There's a guy recently just took an advertising board at the ground, 400 quid it was, £400 advertising board. And he did think it'd do that much. But, when you break it down, you explain it to over what that 400 quid can do, or what little box that'll take. Even if it's so much as that 400 quid, you could ring fence that, and I don't know, say it pays for all the changing room drinks and the stuff they have before the games. Doesn't sound much, but to us it's a lot.
Yeah.
That's something that's taken care of by someone invested in the club. So it doesn't have to be a lot from people just to make subtle changes.
Yeah. We were talking about this before, weren't we? I think the players have got a role to play in the sort of the capturing of more fans, because you could see there was such a great bond between the players and the fans towards the back end of last year. You only had to look at the South Shields game for that. They were all going over and mingling and celebrating together. And I think the fact that a lot of those players are still around, the fans that come back, maybe off the back of last year, are going to know the players, they're going to know who they're watching, and that helps as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the appreciation that the players have shown the fans, I think it's there for all to see, that especially the travelling support, the away travelling support, numbers have gone up, literally away game by away game through the season, and the players really appreciate that, and I think they've shown that at all the away games. But again, that appreciation as well comes from ultimately Paul and Mark, that they appreciate it, and they're ensuring that the players do as well. And like I said, the travelling support going, we've been filling coaches for away games. Never done that ever.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, that the supporter thing, and the crowd's growing, and it's going in the right way. You've just got to keep making sure that you bring success for them.
We talk about look ahead to some of the things that you have got in the pipeline. It's the club's 70th anniversary year coming up. What have you got planned in relation to that? I suppose there'll be ideas develop over the season, but is there anything in the pipeline at the moment?
70 fairy cakes on the gate for the first game.
We'll be here early.
Oh, yeah,
1 and 2 will be gone.
Yeah, that's me getting here early. So 68 left.
We've got it. There's a couple of things. There's a couple of little subtle things, obviously, because it needs to be, and they're always difficult. Centenaries or occasions of birthdays of clubs or whatever you want to call it, because it's, when you're trying to get to somewhere, you've got to be careful where you're not just chucking things at it just to mark it. They've got to be subtle, do it right, but not sort of affect where you're trying to get to. I've seen some clubs that have had centenaries recently where they've actually thrown, they've ultimately thrown a kitchen sink at it, and it's nice, but I'm not having it that it's not affected them out on the pitch. I'm just it would have affected the finances somewhere, and I'm not having it that it wouldn't have, because I've seen what they've done. Such little things as the badge for the forthcoming season will have 2019 70th anniversary on it. That'll be on all the training gear. On the backs of the lads' matchday track suits, it'll have the 1949-2019 on the back. That's getting done. Also looking at a 70th anniversary shirt, which will be the same colours, or as really as close as we can get it to the 1949 kit. There'll only be 70 made, and each one will have numbers 1 to 70 embroidered on the collar. So we've had it verified from someone that actually wore one back in 1949. So and he's a World Cup winner nonetheless. So who am I not to believe him? So yeah, we've got that kind of thing, and there'll be other little things sort of throughout the season that we do linked to the number 70 and things like that, but that aren't labour intensive, and we can do all the right things and keep on track as well.
With the special kit, could it be possible that you pick a home game, for example, and say we'll wear that kit as a playing kit for that home game?
Could be, yeah. It may even be the fact that could we use it in cup matches, that kind of thing. What's sort of new for this year, we've entered a team in the National League Under-19 Alliance, which is our link with Robbie Fowler Academy.
Yeah.
So they're going to go into the Under-19s this year, and it's possible that they may even wear it, so it's out there, and sort of strengthens our link with the Fowler Academy as well. And it's unfortunate Robbie's in Australia at the minute, because if he was here, I was looking at doing to launch the shirt with Robbie Fowler and Sir Roger Hunt, which would have been good. Would have been a great thing. Sir Roger, from obviously back in 40 now, he played for Stockton Heath, and then the link to enforce the link with Fowler Academy. But that's something to look forward to, and hopefully we'll have some players coming through from that as well. Is the
under-19s replacing the MPLFA stuff, or is it in addition to?
It's replacing that, and it's also we've taken. So the Fowler Academy were in the Northwest Development League under-21s last year, so they're coming out of that and they're going into this under-19s, just because no disrespect to that development league, it was way off where we needed to be. The golfing ability from sort of youth teams and reserve teams up to the first team now is really big. So rather than doing it in-house at a cost where you're going to bring lads in and with the best will in the world, unless they're absolutely ripping trees up in there, it's going to be difficult for them to get to the first team. So we're looking at just doing things a little bit different. Got a couple of things on the outside. We're looking at a venue where, season after it could look at giving us our own academy, where we'll develop it again with the Fowler Academy, because them games are Wednesdays. You know, in what's going to be a difficult league with big clubs in, Chester in it, Wrexham in it, Stockport County in it. So there'll be some good sides in there. Bit of travelling to do, but a good level. And also as well, it's going to enable us to look at getting those players out, playing on a Saturday, maybe in the North West counties. So they can go and cut the teeth in the counties on a Saturday for a couple of seasons. So then when they come to us, when they're 21, 22, they've been playing men's football for 2-3 seasons. They've not just been passing it back for 3 or 4 years. They sort of need to come to us sort of rough and ready to go. And
that, I suppose that's got to always be the priority. Is it, the only reason for doing an under-19s or an academy is ultimately to create footballers that can play for Warrington Town's first team. Otherwise, it's pointless doing it.
We've tried everything. I've tried under-16s, youth, reserves. I've tried every different one there is, and if you're really open and honest with yourself, they don't work. They just don't work. They look good. You can turn around and say, "Oh, we've got this structure underneath the first team, and it looks great." But you've got to ask yourself, what does it provide? Is that player going to be knocking on the manager's door, asking why he's not in the first team? He's not. He's not, because to try and find players that can play step 3, the top 6 of step 3 consistently. When you're only operating off a squad of 18 players, they're not there. They're not there, and I think you're kidding yourself if you think they are, because they're not. Is it something that can be sort of brought through eventually through doing a link with the 19s and then putting them in a link with the North West Counties club? Absolutely. That's the way forward. They get in for a couple of years, they get the benefit, and then they come to us.
Anything else?
Training ground. Any progress?
Speak to you offline.
And on that note,
that'll be a Guardian exclusive. No, that
somewhere down the line, I'm sure.
Please do. We're obviously now official. We're on the official Warrington Town website, so please do like, comment, and share the video far and wide. Toby, thanks very much for your time, Matt.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks for your time as always, and we'll see you next time.